flying in the US is still one of the safest forms of transport. So we have seen an increase in media scrutiny, as well as there have been increases in aviation safety incidents. They're not quite accidents yet. I mean, we did have the crash in DC at the start of the year. But in terms of the overall, the aviation industry, I mean, there is a massive push at the moment to modernize the ATC in the US. The FAA, like Sean Duffy.
What's the ATC?
Air traffic control.
Got it.
So there is a massive push to sort of upgrade that. I mean, because we had those outages in Newark, we've seen sort of issues with air traffic control staffing. So there are safety issues in terms of just the air traffic control system and how it's managed. In this case, though, it was a military jet. I mean, it's a military B-52, so it may not come under the ATC, but I mean, there is sort of talk about better coordination. I mean, Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, talked about that when the DC crash happened, because that was a military plane again, helicopter. So we're still looking to see where the overall modernization of the air traffic control system is and where the US goes in terms of being able to actually get those plans that they have at the moment in terms of they want to spend $30 billion on modernizing and where they actually get the funding for that.
Our team reporting earlier today that the Air Force did not make a comment to ABC about this incident. Have we heard anything since then?
We haven't heard anything from the...
Is that a little surprising?
It is, but then we also, I mean, the FAA said that they are investigating this incident and we're sort of waiting to see what they come up with. But typically the Air Force doesn't comment on situations that are near misses.
Well, I guess this one to me is a little different in the sense of it was a B-52. You have the commentary recorded by a passenger of the pilot who sort of explained what's happening in a really cool and collected way. Do you know how in a typical situation like this, a pilot would have been made known about a possible military aircraft within the pattern?
So aircraft typically have collision avoidance systems, and essentially the pilot did something called a go-around, which is fairly common in the aviation industry. I mean, what's not common is having a B-52 coming at you, which is why you have to do a go-around. But there are instances when you either need to recalibrate your approach to the runway, you need to there's an issue at the airport, and go-arounds are frequent and they're a safety measure. But in this case, it does put the entire system under scrutiny in terms of what's really going on with the aviation safety and air traffic control systems in the US.
Well, that's what kind of gets me, is like, how does a Delta jet get so close to a B-52 bomber? Like, I understand that these go-rounds and things happen, but I'm assuming that there is usually great coordination and communication.
There definitely is.
So this was like something didn't happen that was supposed to.
Exactly, and that sort of explains why the pilot was apologizing for that, because it obviously caught him by surprise, caught the air traffic control by surprise. And so we will hear more from the FAA once they do this investigation, and hopefully we'll know what really went wrong there.
This is like your world. What are you thinking? I heard this and I was like,
I was pretty shocked to see this video and hear the commentary from the pilot. It also comes at a time where we're just getting this, it seems like a steady drumbeat, and I don't know if it's actually happening more frequently, but it kind of started at the beginning of this year with the tragedy at Reagan National. And then we had a lot of reports of near misses. We had some close calls on runways. Is it just that social media is around so we can hear the pilot make this announcement and it's played over and over again in the news media? Or is there actually something different when it comes to numbers here?
So we're still looking at the numbers, but I mean, it hasn't really, it is a lot to do with the increased scrutiny that the aviation industry has faced ever since that DC crash. So near misses are now mainstream news, where they wouldn't have been a couple of years ago, including in instances like last week when we had JFK briefly close one of the runways because of an aircraft that was stranded on the aircraft. I mean, immediately there was interest in what's going on. So there is definitely a lot of interest and anxiety among flying the public, but at the moment, we don't really see a massive increase in the number of incidents.
I'm just worried about like communication. I had an incident flying out before my vacation where we took off, pushed off on time, doing great. And then we ended up sitting for 2 hours on the runway. Now, we were told, and again, this is just what an flight attendant said, but that there was actually either the president or part of his administration that were landing in Newark and they weren't planning on it. And it just, to me, sends, I know things happen, but it just sounds like some miscommunication just quickly. I mean, I don't know how to feel this real quickly.
I mean, it is. I mean, obviously there is greater scrutiny. I mean, you wouldn't have thought much of it if it was happening in the past and if it hadn't happened after all these aviation safety incidents we've read about, we've written about, and we've sort of seen playing out. So I think there is definitely much more that you notice about flying now than you did previously.